right, good afternoon. Thanks for coming out, everyone. Bulls are back home on Saturday, 1 p.m. against UMass. Coach, if you want to open up with a statement, and we'll take some questions.
Sure. Appreciate everybody coming out. What a beautiful day for practice. Warm and sunny, and you just appreciate days like this and getting a chance to do what you do. Just looking back at the weekend, it was a disappointing loss at Missouri. I think they're a very good team. I think they're poised to have a good season. But I thought we were capable of making that a much more competitive game than it ended up being. Thought our defense played really hard. I think we're starting to develop a personality to our defense that we play hard, and we did there. We tackled well early. We made some stops early. But as the game went on, we ended up being on the field too long, way too many snaps, some shorter fields, which always make it a little bit tougher to keep the opponent out of the end zone. But several guys played well. Sean Dolak played well again. Red Murdoch played well. Marquise Cooper had a really nice game. That's a guy we recently put on scholarship, and it's nice to see somebody trying to show you every day that he appreciates that. Solomon Brown, I don't think he's come off the field in 2 games for us now. I've talked a lot about him and coming back from injury. Charles McCarthan's played pretty well and had that interception. Inside, George and Cornell and guys like that held up well. Tone Koklaw did some nice things from a pass rush standpoint, so there were definitely some good showings on defense. Offensively, I thought we failed to get in sync early, and that turned into some punts early in the game. We did run the ball well at times, and I thought at times we looked up front like we were staying on people and moving people and holding up pretty well in pass protection against some pretty good guys. But at the end of the day, I don't think we made the throws you need to make. And when you're playing a team like that and you're getting one-on-one matchups on the outside, you got to throw and you got to catch. Well, before we go to special teams, talked about the guys up front. I thought Doty played really well. Dom Polizzi, our center, who's not the biggest guy, but he plays tough, he plays smart. Jake Orlando's continuing to have a nice year. Our running backs, Barksdale, Henderson, both of those guys played really well. Lamar Sperling was home for a family commitment, a funeral, so we excused him from the game, and we thought that was the right thing to do for him to be with his family over the weekend, but he'll certainly be back with us this week. Special teams was really not a factor in the game, so I guess that's in some ways an improvement from our first game, but in other ways, when you're going into an environment like that and trying to pull off an upset, you need to make a difference in that phase of the game, and it was really just basically a draw. So I think, we're starting to develop a bit of an identity. We play hard. We're physical. Our kids are even-keeled. I go over to the sideline to see how they're doing. I look them in the eye. I look them in the eye at halftime, obviously talking to them after the game, and they're a pretty poised, even-keeled group, which is good. But we certainly need to start executing at a higher level, and we need to execute with more consistency than we're doing right now. So we're very much a work in progress. We're regrouping after that trip to the Midwest, and we've got a very good UMass team coming in. This is a great opportunity for us. To me, this is one of the reasons why an institution makes a commitment to playing football at this level. You've got a peer institution from the same geographic footprint, a school that our students, faculty, staff, fans should be able to identify with. Coming in here and a nationally televised game on CBS Sports. So I think that's a great opportunity, not only for our football program, but for the entire university to rally around and support and hopefully come out and be a part of. UMass is a talented team. They're a veteran team. They've got a very strong nucleus of players. A lot of guys that have played a lot of football, whether that be at UMass or if they started their career somewhere else. And sometimes when you have a team that's got a lot of transfers, it takes a little bit of time for those guys to gel and get used to playing together and being on the same page. And you saw a pretty strong improvement, I think, as a team for them from week 1 against Eastern Michigan to week 2 against Toledo. And I'm sure they're feeling positive about their trajectory and things coming together. The UMass offense, I have the utmost respect for Shane Montgomery as an offensive coordinator. First of all, I think he's one of the really, really finer human beings coaching in the college game. He's had success every stop along the way. He absolutely knows his stuff. He knows his system. He knows how to put together a game plan. He's an excellent play caller on game day. He will have his group prepared. He typically runs a balanced offense, likes to run the ball, does a nice job, free release in the back in some pass concepts in terms of full field type reads, one side or the other, and distributing the ball, getting it out quickly, but also knows how to do a great job with play action passes and taking shots down the field, and they'll certainly be very, very sound in everything they do. Got a veteran quarterback. Tyson Pumachaw is a kid that I know really well. He's not a kid anymore. He's a man. I remember recruiting this guy coming out of Avon Old Farms in Connecticut, and I can't even remember what year it was, but it seemed to me like Danny Ainge was still playing for the Celtics, and George W. Bush might have still been in the Oval Office. It was a long time ago that this guy was at Avon and was a big-time guy. And a great kid, and started at Clemson, ended up at Georgia Tech, and now at UMass, and so he's a battle-tested quarterback, big, strong guy. He's got a very lively arm, and he's also a very good runner. He's got really, really good straight-line speed. They've got 2 very good transfer running backs, number 21 John and number 23 Campbell. Those guys, similar to us, will roll in and out of the game and have both been productive. Very impressed with their receivers. Number 1, Anthony Simpson. Number 11, Keeney James, is a hyphenated last name. Those 2 guys certainly stand out on film with their speed and athleticism. So this is a talented offense. Defensively, this is a group that, even though I have not played UMass here in a few years, it's scheme and a system that is very, very familiar to me as a coach who spent a good bit of his career growing up coaching in the Northeast. So the head coach is a guy that I've known since the mid-'90s, and actually when I was a 24 or 25-year-old assistant at Dartmouth, he was right up the road head coach at Plymouth State. And then fast forward to the late 90s, I'm an assistant coach at Lehigh, and we're playing UMass in the FCS playoffs, second round. We had just upset Richmond in the first round, and who's the defensive coordinator at UMass? None other than Donnie Brown. So very familiar with him and his system, and great respect for what he does and how he does it, going all the way back to the start of my coaching career. Very high pressure defense, very multiple, very disruptive. They're going to be in 4 down. They're going to be in 3 down. They're going to play a mix of man and zone. They're going to do a really good job with their disguises. And historically, it has been very hard to sustain drives against this defense. Tyler Rudolph is a defensive back that I remember well recruiting in Connecticut, ended up at Penn State, and now he's at UMass, and he's certainly a high-level player for a group of 5 type program. Jalen Harrell, number 0, he's a guy that'll show up, kind of a hybrid player for them, very versatile. Their D-line is very active. They're constantly moving. Their defensive backs are a veteran group. So this will be a real test for us. And, I made it very clear to our guys starting today that we need to have a great week of practice, and we need to bounce back from last weekend and have an edge about us going into this game to be the very best that we can be. The other thing I want to mention, and I know that we will recognize veterans this weekend at this home game, which I think is a great thing to do. Tomorrow is 9/11, and I think it's important that and I'll certainly talk to our team about that after practice tomorrow. I think it's really important that day never passes without us talking about it and what happened. So as a guy who grew up on Staten Island, lost a lot of guys from my high school that day. A lot of them were police and firemen that were in the city. Actually had a teammate who was one of the handful of firemen that survived when that tower came down. He was in that stairwell, and somehow miraculously he and 6 or 7 of his co-workers were saved. Incredible story there. Several Georgetown people that worked in the financial sector were lost that day. My dad's boss. My dad had retired from the police department, was in insurance. His boss had played offensive line at Pittsburgh and was lost that day. So, very, very meaningful time. I think we all remember, if we're old enough, exactly where we were and exactly what we were doing on 9/11. I remember I was a first-year head coach at Lehigh, and we were getting ready for a game against the University of Pennsylvania, and it was a Monday, and we're in the office game planning, and all of a sudden, the TV monitors went from watching cut-ups of UPenn to turning on the news and seeing what was going on. So, I think it's important that even though the guys we're coaching today, may not have felt the same way that we did as adults, I think it's important that they understand that that's a part of our country's history. And I also remember when I mentioned President Bush earlier. I remember when he came out and threw that strike at that Yankees game. I don't know how many days after 9/11 that was, but you just sort of knew that everything was going to be okay. So, and it certainly is. So, that being said, I'll open it up for questions.
Pete, after a 38-0 loss, I feel weird going from 9/11 to back
That's
to
okay.
games. I apologize. But
The task at hand.
A 38-0 loss. What does this team need to do to pivot and move forward? And like you said, kind of create that edge to go into UMass and prepare for the MAC schedule.
Yeah, the good news about our guys is that they don't get too high or too low, which is a good thing. And I don't have any doubt that they'll bounce back from that. We've got some bumps and bruises that are healing up, but the mental component, I think they'll bounce back. And I think it's important that because we are still very much a growing program and a program that's still figuring things out, that the coaching staff and I lead by example. And so, we came out there and coached with our hair on fire today to sort of set the tone for the week. This is really our first week where it's a true game week, right? So you get ready for Lafayette. Well, you had a lot of time during preseason to get ready for Lafayette. Then you had an extra couple days to get ready for Missouri because you opened up on a Thursday night. This is a true game week. This is college football. This is the way it goes. You get back in the middle of the night from a road trip. You get in there on Sunday and grade the video. You try to put the last game to bed. Players hit their academics on Monday, and then you come in first thing Tuesday morning, and you have got to be ready to roll. And this is the only Tuesday we get, and tomorrow will be the only Wednesday we get, and Thursday will be the only Thursday we get, and we're going to kick off at 1:02 on Saturday. So this is no time for the what ifs, and there's certainly no time to feel sorry for yourself. It's load the wagons and let's go on to UMass.
Pete, there were also some lineup changes on the depth chart,
Mm-hmm.
starting with Nick McMillan not being on there, and he didn't practice today.
Yep.
He sustained a left knee injury. Is it short-term or long-term?
Yeah, he's out for this week, and we're still waiting for more information on that. We'll certainly keep you guys updated about him.
What happened? When did the
It was late in the game.
Okay.
Late in the game, and it was a run play and just kind of a bang play, and he came sprinting off the field, but we're certainly going to be thorough and get him fully evaluated.
The guys have to step up. J.J. Jenkins is penciled in.
Yeah.
And what's kind of J.J.'s responsibility now that he's filling in for Nick,
Yep.
at least on paper?
Be the best version of yourself. So here's how I look at injuries. Okay, first of all, you're always very sensitive and thoughtful when it comes to whoever gets injured, whatever the seriousness of that is, right? These are young men, they're human beings. I missed half of my senior year with a broken fibula. Thankfully, I was able to play in my last game and finish my career on my own terms. But I've been there. I've been miserable because I've had to miss doing what I love to do. So when it comes to an injury, I'm always very aware of that and make sure that there's a lot of individual attention paid to that player because it's never fun, even if it is short term, to go through that. But relative to the big picture and the team, it's next man up mentality. And injuries are part of the game, and everybody's got to deal with them. And so you can't blink. And certainly from in terms of setting the example as the head coach, you have to show that we've got good depth, and we're going to prepare the next guy to go out and be the best version of himself, and guys have to embrace those opportunities. So JJ's a guy that played a lot of football at Columbia. I have a lot of respect for the quality of play in the Ivy League, and here you go, man. If this is your chance to start in this game, then show us you belong and embrace the opportunity. And JJ's done some good things in practice. He played well against Lafayette in a limited capacity. So if he gets a chance to play some more in this game, then let's have at it.
With the pass game, you said you liked what you saw in the opener, didn't make some of the throws that you needed to make in the second game. What do you need to see from that, or what are you hoping to see from that here in the third game?
Yeah, better execution. We got to put the ball up in places where our receivers can go get it, and then our receivers, tight ends, running backs have to go make plays on those competitive catches, those 50-50 balls. And until you show you can do that, teams are going to give you a lot of man coverage and overload the box. I think it doesn't take Bill Belichick to look at our film and say we're pretty solid up front. We've got pretty good running backs. We're pretty effective, cohesive in a run game. So people are going to pack the box and make us win one-on-ones on the outside. And you got two choices. You either run it for hopefully 3 or 4 yards a clip, but it's hard to sustain drives that way, or you got to take some shots on the outside. And you know what? You're not going to connect on all of them, but you need to connect on some of them.
How much of that do you think is determined by the opponent, the level of competition that you had last week compared to the one before?
Well, we'll see. We'll see. I guess time will tell. I think I've said many times, maybe not to this group, but in December, I'm going to sit down. I'll probably go visit one of my favorite Italian restaurants, maybe order a glass of Chianti, and kind of reflect back on this season and see if we reached our potential and where our program is at. And at that point, we'll know Missouri could be in the college football playoff, or they could be just going to some other bowl game, and who knows? Who knows where we'll be? Right now, it's just keep your foot on the gas and keep pushing to get the very most, every last drop out of this group. And at some point, when the season is part of history, we'll look back on it and see how good we were and if we reached our potential and how good Missouri was.
We do know the Bulls will be at home for the second time this season. How nice is that to have 2 or 3 home games to
Yeah,
start your
love it.
tenure?
Love it, love it. It's we had a really good atmosphere here in the opener, and I think it's even more important to have a great atmosphere here in the second home game. Again, as I mentioned earlier, I think this is a great opportunity not just for our football program, but for the entire university to rally around and make this a community event, not just a football game, but what should be a big, exciting community event here in Amherst, New York. And I'm hoping that we get a great turnout of students, faculty, staff, community members, and we'll certainly continue to do our part. We had, I think, a dozen high school teams come to our opener. I think we've got 4 or 5 already committed to coming. A lot of guys that we're recruiting coming in as well. So, we're not just asking people to do that. We're trying to lead by example as a coaching staff and a support staff as well to try to do our part to make it a good environment on game day.
You mentioned Marquise Cooper. What did he do to win that job, and what has he done since he's been in the job as one of your
Yeah.
starters?
He's a very physical player. He's not the biggest guy, but he plays really hard. Talked about our defense, playing hard, being tough, competing. I think that describes him. He's a guy who plays with a little chip on his shoulder, and I respect that. I respect competitors, and that's why we put him on scholarship. And he went out there and had 12 tackles against Missouri, and there were a couple he missed too, but that's how it's going to go. But that guy competed, and I'm proud of him. And you know what? If he keeps competing like that, he's going to play a lot of football around here.
CJ Agbana in particular, after the loss at Missouri, kind of you said, really rebuild the edge to go to UMass. How have you seen him in particular really respond after the loss at Missouri?
Yeah,
Being limited to 55 yards passing.
Yeah, not happy about that whatsoever. But he's a very even-keeled guy, and I think that's part of the reason why we picked him to lead our offense. He's the same guy every day. He's the same guy through the highs and lows. And all right, here you go. We talk about adversity all the time. We didn't have all that much of it in the first game, at least from an offensive standpoint. We certainly had some on special teams, but now we've had some offensively. How do we respond to that? Can we bounce back this week and get back into the groove and lead the way we're capable of leading? So I've got a lot of confidence in him, and I'm anxious to see him do just that.
Coach, you've mentioned how important attitude is within the squad. How does the team bounce back from such a tough loss at Missouri ahead of the game against UMass?
Yeah, again, I don't think our guys, they're the same guys every day. That's the thing I like about them. They're always positive, energetic. We've got a set of core values. I remember introducing those to the guys the first week I was here at the end of January, and I just said, hey, this is what we're going to emphasize every day. This is what we're going to embrace. This is what we're going to expect. This is what we're going to demand. These are the attributes of the kind of people that we want to surround ourselves with here in our program in every level. It could be a student assistant. It could be somebody who volunteers in our nutrition hub. It's all the same. It's people with the same core values. And I think our guys are living up to it. They really are. I mean, they're all into what we're doing. So I don't have any complaints about that. But that being said, there's a loss is a loss. I don't care if we're playing the 6th-ranked team in the country. We're not going to be okay with that. And so we're going to learn from it. We're going to move on from it. And but we got to respond too.
I know it's not the next game on your schedule, but what does it mean for the league that Northern got that win and into the top 25, and then having them coming up pretty soon on your schedule? Yeah,
one of the first things I did Sunday morning when I got in here was text NIU's coach and congratulate him. And, ironically, said to our team that day before the Missouri game that this is college football, and this is the beauty of college football. I'm a guy who personally has always rooted for underdogs. I grew up, enjoying watching Army, Navy, and Air Force, and I couldn't wait to put on a Northwestern game or a Vanderbilt game or watch Rice or Tulane before Tulane. Now Tulane's pretty good, but back in the day, Tulane would be a 3-9 team, and I'd be watching Tulane. And so that's the beauty of college football. You got to play the games. And if a group of 5 team or even an FCS team shows up and just does what they do and does it at a really high level and doesn't blink in that environment, and a ranked team shows up and for whatever reason it's a C+ day for them or a B- day for them, guess what? That's what happens, right? That's what happens. And so and I've been a part of all of those games. You do this long enough, you see it all. And so nothing surprises me anymore. And Bowling Green was very competitive going in and playing Penn State and took that game down to the wire. Obviously Northern had the big upset. And, we didn't quite play to the level that those two teams did, but we will eventually get there. And my first year at Ball State, we weren't able to go into Oklahoma and really compete with the #1 ranked team in the country. It was just a little bit big for us at that point. But, a year or two later, all of a sudden we started being more competitive in those games. And I'm not saying we ever beat the #5 ranked team in the country, but we beat Indiana a couple times. We beat Virginia. We beat South Florida. We had some of those kind of wins. And I think it's just the team understanding that you don't really need to do a whole lot different. You just need to be the best version of yourself. And I'm sure that's what Bowling Green was able to do in their game and Northern in theirs. Okay, thanks so much.
Thank you.